Hey everybody, great to be learning with you today as we continue our studies of Sefer Yehoshua and explore Perek Tet, the 9th chapter, which focuses on the deception of the Givonim. Last we saw the Jewish people, they are fresh off a victory at Ai. It is the second attempt that they made to conquer the city, and this time they're successful. Prior to that, the Jewish people had, of course, defeated the city of Jericho in a spectacular, miraculous fashion with the walls of the city tumbling down after the Jewish people circled the city for 7 days, blowing shofarot. At this point, the Jewish people take up camp in the city of Gilgal, which is where they'll stay for quite a while. It's sort of their home base. And it's located right by the banks of the Yarden, the Jordan River. And at this point in the story, Yehoshua is given the command to begin conquering the land of Canaan, which is currently occupied by these enemy nations lighting up in front of you on your screen. Those nations are the Canaani, the Chiti, the Chivi, more on them in a second, the Yevusi, the Perizi, and the Amori. And these nations currently live in Israel, and one by one, they would have to be conquered in order for the Jewish people to take full possession of the land of Eretz Yisrael. And this is a process that would take a full 7 years to complete. It was not something that would go quickly, and the book of Yehoshua at this point is focused in great detail on the conquests of the Jewish people as they begin to take possession of the land. But the Perek opens with something very strange, and that is a very unusual encounter between a group of people known as the Givonim and Yehoshua. These people, the Givonim, actually were residents in the land. They were part of the Chivi nation. But these people came to Yehoshua, tricking him to try to get him to sign a peace treaty. Why would they want him to sign a peace treaty, and what was their trick? Well, as members of the 7 enemy nations, they would have to, of course, be conquered, and they knew this, and they were well aware of the Jewish people's prior victories at Ai and at Jericho. And so they resorted to a trick. They dressed up as people from a faraway land. In fact, that's what they claimed to be. They did that by dressing in old clothes and carrying old possessions and made their shoes look like they were scuffed and had been well worn through the desert, through traveling. And they asked Yehoshua if they can please join the nation. Now, Yehoshua, not realizing that the Givonim were up to a trick, agrees to this treaty. And some commentators say that he really made a mistake. What Yehoshua should have done, instead of just accepting the treaty of the Givonim, was to ask the Urim V'Tumim. We remember the Urim V'Tumim from a previous Perek, where they helped Yehoshua identify Achan ben Carmi as the sinner who had taken spoils from Jericho when he shouldn't have. But this time Yehoshua, for some reason, doesn't seek the advice of the Urim V'Tumim, instead agrees to the treaty with the Givonim, and of course later realizes his mistake. Well, he can't do anything about the treaty. He says, what's done is done. I've made a treaty with them. I've made an agreement, and I can't go back on my word, but here's what I'm going to do. Yehoshua takes the Givonim and says, for the crime of tricking me and of acting deceitfully, you will one day serve as chotvei eitzim, wood choppers, and the role that you'll play is to help prepare the wood that will be used in the Mizbeach for all of the korbanot. And in addition to serving as a wood chopper, the Givonim are given a second service task, and that is to become shoavei mayim, water carriers. Of course, back then there was no running water or indoor plumbing. If you wanted water, you had to go draw it yourself from a stream. And these water carriers were important people, especially around the time of Sukkot, because at this time of the year, the Jewish people had a ceremony known as Nisoch HaMayim, where they would draw water from a river known as the Shiloach, which is located there at the bottom of your screen. And this river ran around the city of Yerushalayim, and water drawers, water carriers, would take water from the Shiloach, bring it into the Beit HaMikdash, and there was a special ceremony, which we can discuss some more together, known as Nisoch HaMayim, that took place every Sukkot. And for this, we would require water carriers. So these were 2 jobs that the Givonim would play: wood choppers, chotvei eitzim, and water carriers, shoavei mayim. But when we return to class, I've got some big questions that we need to discuss about this Perek, and the first has to do with keeping our promises. Yehoshua seems to feel strongly that the promises that he makes to the Givonim are kept and honored. Why is that? And what can we learn from Yehoshua about keeping our promises? And secondly, it's important for us to understand why Yehoshua didn't seek advice this time from the Urim V'Tumim when he did before. And finally, to take a look at these service jobs that Yehoshua prepared for the Givonim. Was this a punishment or an opportunity? What is the role and the purpose of service? Is there possibly something beneficial, something worthwhile that can be achieved even in doing something as lowly as drawing water or chopping wood? These are some of the questions we'll discuss as we return to class. Looking forward to learning with you when we return.